there. That's
Okay.
mine. Everybody, oh, that's yours. You want to cut it off? They have this one because the server, right? A little bit. Perfect. All in your glory. You're right here. You don't have to be relax, and everybody already loves you from what I've said. That'll be fun. Hoping it picks up everything, but it might make it a little higher. But let's see how that's good. You say, yeah, the levels look to be good. Teach myself a lot of audio stuff.
Good.
Frank's dad made it out. That's awesome. I hadn't seen him in like 8 years. That's great. Congratulations.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt
Dad,
me.
that's right.
Don't hurt
Hello, everybody. Java, Tryhard, how's it going? So, also my dad here, dad of dads, doesn't know how all of this works. People like create a screen name. They come in, they subscribe. Java is obviously an amazing person. Paying money just to see me here. Tryhard is great too. Long time dad. That's right. This is the dad of all dads. We'll get started. So I'll introduce the father of all fathers, my father. So if any of I recall you talking about doing this a while back, Dad Ultimate Final Form. That's right. So there is, if I ever give bad dad advice, tell terrible jokes, you know who to blame. The source is here. The one and only source. The older game father, even though older game dad, not really a gamer. So I want to start off and introduce my father, somebody that's obviously very important to me. Dad and Dad Jr. Hello, Evil Farter. I had a feeling that he would love your name, Evil Farter. He described himself as very fart-oriented. Very classy.
It's a noble profession.
How was the audio, by the way? We had to change it up a little bit, obviously. Noble profession, right. So, I want to introduce my dad. So I know we had 400 followers, and we did it. Do this for you guys. Well done teaching bad jokes. We never know as kids how handy those jokes would be one day. That's true. You know what? Dad jokes are good puns. That's all it is. Dad jokes are just good puns. They're good jokes. You can't tell me otherwise. So I want to introduce, my dad. Obviously a dad of how many years now? Well, how old is Brian? 38 years of dad. That's professional and, obviously a legend, if you will, in most professions. Great father. I'll be honest, a great dad. I mean, obviously from the community that we have here, and I try to, help everybody and profess any sort of modicum of wisdom I have, and I owe it all to him, and the humor that I have, I owe all to my parents and my dad as well. Just want to give that introduction, and I guess start off. You guys ask as many questions as you want. I want to say one of the first ones is, we had a couple lists here, is, I guess, what is it like being a dad versus a grandpa?
Being a dad versus a grandpa is they're totally different experiences. Being a dad is watching your kids every minute, making sure they don't get into trouble, trying to correct them, make sure that what they're doing is fine and not problematic. Being a grandpa is the opposite. Being a grandpa, you like to please your kids, you like to stuff them with food, you like to spoil them, all the things you said you weren't going to do and you didn't do when you were a dad. And then you leave. So it's great.
So you leave the parents to deal with the problems of all of it?
It was my problem at one time. Now it's your problem. Okay. So yeah, being a grandpa is really great. In fact, I got a hat on that says "Grandpa" when his first son Lucas was born, and you can play with him, you can spoil him, you can get him all wired up, get him all sugared out, and then you leave. So that's great. Yeah, it's great.
As is tradition, is the lineage, right? As I will do to my grandkids.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the karma.
It's now they're your problem.
Yeah, it's the karma. Right? All the things that I've done that were done to me, I'm going to do to you.
Okay. A dad joke. Do you have a dad joke off the top of your head?
Oh, I can't recall that many, but I do have one. Okay, this is a bad one. Okay? I'm not going to claim fame, but it's the kind of joke that I raised Zach to appreciate and to get as many groans as he could from. Why does a math book have so many problems? No, I blew that joke. Well, why does a math book look so sad? Okay, because it has too many problems.
There we go.
There, right, I blew it.
There we go.
So much for that. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think you get the point. That's the direction in which I try to teach my kids. And Zach has done that with his son and daughter. You know, he's trying to help them
have humor.
Yeah, punishment.
Yeah, tomato, tomato.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to like the jokes. Obviously, everybody has an excellent sense of humor. I guess then the follow-up question is, now having pets, because we didn't have pets growing up, pets or kids? Having your own children. I mean, now that you know pets.
Well, I was allergic to dogs when the kids were growing up. And so we couldn't have a dog. Tried to get a cat, but kids tormented the cat. It was a Rex cat, no dander.
Yeah.
And the kids would chase the cat around, and the cat would hide, and we couldn't handle the cat. Cat that supposedly had no dander, but it was not very kid-friendly. The kids didn't know how to be gentle. So we didn't have dogs when the kids were growing up. But my wife told me, Jack's mother, that you got to get a dog. So I got tested, that it's either me or the dog. And I decided not to give up on my wife, and went along with the dog. And dogs have been great. Dachshunds. Now we've got a Cocker Spaniel. And I've told Zach and Brian, my other child, I said, look, if I known how much fun dogs were, I wouldn't have had you guys. So
we're lucky that they didn't have dogs. Yeah,
it worked out well. You know, otherwise you may not have had this podcast.
Why have kids one dog, right? Why? I wouldn't. I would be a old game glimmer of your eye, never existing.
Yeah. Maybe we should have had kids.
Yeah, right.
We have 5 dogs. So.
Right, 5 dogs. That would be a lot of dogs. So, Kate asks, what is your favorite dad story? So, like, I don't know what even that means. Like, as a dad story, like, I guess one of the favorite things you remember of us, myself, just in general as a kid. Like, what's a memory that you recall, funny or whatever it is? Any sort of memory that comes to your mind.
Yeah, the only thing that comes to mind is the Star of Davis. Okay, what that means is we were in a Jewish household, and there's something called the Star of David, which is a symbol of Israel and all this stuff. And one time Zach came back from school, and he said, I learned a lot about my religion. And I said, oh, what did you learn about? And he showed the thing on him, and there was a triangular star of David. I said, what did you learn about it? I learned what the Star of Davis is. And then he asked, who's Davis? And anyway, that comes to mind.
I got a good follow-up for you about a veterinarian.
Oh, that's right. He always wanted he liked animals, but he also was proud on Veterans Day. He always referred to veterans as it's Veterinarians Day. So I don't know. So he was.
Yeah,
he got things confused a little bit word-wise.
Yeah, veterinarians. They're tomato, right? So Evil Farter and the previous question was the same thing. Favorite thing? Well, one of them is an embarrassing story. Apparently I'm called Dad Junior. You're the OG dad. You have an embarrassing story, and while you think of one, what was your favorite thing to do to embarrass me or kids in general?
Well, the thing I did to embarrass both of you guys, was I would make funny sounds in public.
Oh
I would come up with a sound. You
do a voice like, oh, you do a voice. Yes,
but I would not just do it at home like many people do. I'd do it in public. So it'd be
you do it for our friends.
Your friends would come over.
They would ask for it,
and I think, and they'd ask me, "Does your dad is okay mentally?"
Okay.
So it was. I would make these funny. Sounds like I was slow. Let's put that way.
Goodness! No, but you not even that. But you would do voices of like, "Oh, where are we going?" Or like,
I know. And you try to, and then we would go to the mall, and you try to walk behind. Like not to associate yourself with me. I totally understand. I didn't stop me. I kept on going.
Isn't that half the reason you have kids is to embarrass them?
I think that's part of the joy. I mean, you basically get tormented by the kids when they're growing up. You ask them to do things, they excuses, you do all this for them, and you watch them grow up. But it's hard on you, as a parent. So you want to get your revenge.
You get your jollies where you can.
Yeah, you certainly do. And if you can embarrass them, that makes up a little bit for what they've done to you.
Karma, that's right. Squeeze, thanks for the subscription. 7 months. We have the OG dad of dads, as I'm Dad Junior. The original father is here. So another question is really coming from the younger crowd that we have. Is what you did what is back in my day?
I mean,
also first question, preface that. Did you really have to walk backwards uphill in the snow both ways in school?
No, we had a bus.
They had buses.
We had
everybody.
But we had black and white TV, and we had no video game.
Right.
We had 3 television channels, ABC, NBC, and CBS. No cable, no Netflix. Wanted to see a movie, you'd have to pay to go to see the. But we had a bus, and now, we learned to play with each other, go out and play instead of outside. And
what about Atari? This is before Atari. Oh, I mean, Atari
was revolutionary.
That's a 70s.
Yeah, that's when
it was Bible and chill back in his day. Somebody said.
Yeah. What is it? Pong.
But that was new. You were like 30.
They didn't have any games.
You were like 30 when Pong came out.
Yeah,
right?
we didn't have any games. We had things like Monopoly, of course. Life.
Like real life?
No,
okay.
The game.
The game of life.
But that was it. That was as technically.
Did you have the hula hoop and a stick and you?
We had a hula hoop, and we also had a Davy Crockett hat. Back in those old days when I was a kid, there was a show called Davy Crockett with Fess Parker. It's about this guy in Alabama or Mississippi hunting the raccoons, and so it was a big thing. And so they had these coonskin caps that you would. So you have a hula.
I think we have one at your house in the basement.
Yeah, that's right. And it was a big deal. I mean, Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier.
Yeah,
I know. I used to sing this act, and he.
Yes, just dulcet tones. But I mean, it's changed. I mean,
a lot.
I mean, you had to make your. I mean, was it a lot of reading too? I mean, you read a lot, or not really? You made your own fun or stuff.
You didn't have a lot. TV wasn't all that exciting. You did read more, I think. Didn't have as many bells and whistles as you do on the cell phone.
Well, there was no cell phone. There was no cell phone. Here's my thing I do want to bring up to point to everybody. Is like the time before there was obviously Google or looking anything up. If you didn't know who that actor was or you didn't know what that capital was, you either went to the library, had an encyclopedia, or that's it. You just didn't know. Right? Is that right? I mean, you would either go to the library or, that's it.
We had a world book, and they have each volume A through B, A and B and C, and you look up stuff there.
You have them in the basement.
Yeah, we got them in the basement. They're collector's items. And people would come by and sell you Encyclopedia Britannicas.
Yeah.
You'd have to pay a lot of money, and you buy one of those.
Or else you do have to go to the library if you didn't have one in your house.
And if you go to the library, you have to find what you're looking for through a card catalog. I don't know how many.
Dewey Decimal System?
Yeah, the Dewey Decimal System. I don't know how many people now have actually seen a card. You know, you don't have to. Google stuff up and read it up in 5 seconds. You know, so yeah, it was a lot different.
So there's a dad vice redemption here where what is an important life lesson you, OG Dad, could share with us? And that you've learned over the years.
I guess just stick with it, be persistent. Don't give up on things. Because if you do, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity. And life's got ups and downs and failures and successes. Just stick with it. That's what I've learned.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, OG Dad. He's the one who said it. Right? I mean, that's what you're saying.
Yeah. Right. Right. If you don't try, you fail, but you don't succeed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's I guess that's
persistence is key.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times it's easy to get down on yourself, and I want to say, I guess, expand on that in like the age of social media. Like everybody everybody posts their best, right? Nobody posts their failures. It's hereditary. Dad Junior's wise. Everybody posts their best and their brightest, but nobody posts them failing on something or doing bad on a test or whatever, right, or these bad pictures. You as a person living real life every day see all these successes online. So it gets really easy to tell yourself, why bother? Can't be that good. I give up. But that's not how it in reality is. You have to keep trying, striving, and being persistent. And I feel like honestly, that's something with the younger. We're watching on TV. All right, we got the family in the downstairs watching us on TV right now. So, and I feel like that's something on the younger generation is not like lost on them. It's harder for them. The social media, all of this, everything online and available makes it harder for them to succeed because they only see everybody else's successes. They don't get to see others' failures.
Yeah, that's really important because you can just see, like in our neighborhood, Jack's mom, she says, well, look at these people there. They don't have problems with this or problems with that.
But you don't
Well,
know.
they do. Yeah, they just don't advertise them because
Right.
you live yours and you don't see theirs. So, yeah, that's important. So don't give up. Realize that the problems you have are similar to what everybody else has. Different ways, different severity, different times. But, you keep on going. So
Everybody's going through the same, typically, or for the most part,
Life.
going through the same problems and same ups and downs as you are.
Yeah.
Not taking away from anybody being who they are, but don't ever feel alone in that aspect.
Yeah,
right?
you could just go through life, and life's got good and bad.
Yeah.
You stick with it, and everybody sticks with it. You have to. So, persistence, have confidence in yourself as best you can, no matter what happens, and moving ahead.
Absolutely. The what else we got for questions? Do you ever think of an embarrassing story? A story in general about us? I think I try to block most of those out of my memory. I just do, growing up. I mean, you try to embarrass us, but I mean, I'll say this though to everybody, and I think I brought it up yesterday. Is we're my brother and I, the family household, we're very lucky to have good parents who care, are kind, talk like this, trying to impart wisdom on us. As a kid, as a teenager, as live in the house, you don't see it. You don't understand it until you're like mid-20s, and then you realize it. It takes time. You think you know better. It's about. I mean, having good parents is something to be very thankful for, and I'm thankful for that. I don't think it was yesterday, but you can think every day. But yeah, also, you want to ask, when you were a kid, did you think the future was going to be like, floating cars and colonies in space? We've discussed this. I love your take on this. This is so interesting. So, like, when you were a kid, what did you think the future was going to be like? Was it going to be floating, flying cars and colonies in space? Also, the Jetsons, right?
That's exactly what it was. I watched the Jetsons, and the Jetsons were. Elroy had a little car that he floated on. It didn't have cars on roads. You had floating, just like TV in the science fiction. You thought that was going to happen.
Was that like just kids thought that, or was that like everybody believed that was going to be in like 50 years?
You believe that the future would be totally mechanized.
floating cars and people have robots.
Right. And then, thought about computers, and computers when I was a kid would take up a whole room instead
The
of
whole
a cell
house,
phone.
yeah.
When I was a kid, you thought everything would be, and now they're starting to do things. I just heard on the news that they set up a drone to deliver packages for Amazon.
Amazon has done that for a while, but I think they're expanding
They're
it. But
expanding it now, and that you thought everything was going to happen, and it hasn't. I mean, things have happened. I think the most revolutionary thing that's happened is the cell phone, because that brings together things like Google, sites, apps, everything that you had to go to the library for before.
The reason
all in one in your palm.
I think the reason that's easier than mechanizing is because a virtual space takes less moving power, processing power, or like working power to mechanize a robot. A robot is physical and takes work, and like you have to have moving parts. But other than having internet where the space being available, that's virtual. So you can be anything. And you don't have to build that virtual space the same way you build a robot. You don't need metal parts. You don't need these kind of items. You don't need a mechanical engineering degree. All of that. So there's a lot more to it. I guess I even as a kid, I thought there would be more advances like now than there is now.
I thought there'd be robots everywhere doing everything. And
you'd press a button for food,
Yeah.
right? Then I want this pot roast for dinner, and it would cook the pot roast in 2 minutes, and there you
everything
go.
would be mechanized, and you get it, and that doesn't work that way. So, but there's mechanization, technological advancement in different ways. We don't have dial phones. It's really come a long way.
Favorite TV show growing up as a kid?
Oh.
We're both dads. I'll go for you first.
When I was growing up, it was pretty basic. We had things like Mighty Mouse.
Here he comes to save the day. Here he comes to save the day.
That's right. We had things like Sky King.
I've never heard of that.
And Penny, that was the name of his daughter. He was a guy who was in the West United States, and he'd fly out and do his rescue operation.
Really?
These were all in black and white. So it wasn't there was much visual effects as you. And so I like cartoons. I used to watch Saturday morning cartoons, and that was. Then there's other stuff you'd watch, but they were so limited in what you could watch.
Everybody liked they had the same likes, pretty much, of shows because there was only like 8 shows to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, I had memorized when I was a kid. I memorized. We had a TV guide that came.
Evil Farter says they miss Looney Tunes, and try to get to the second question.
Looney Tunes were great.
Our kids, I mean, only know from like certain movies or sometimes they've seen them. Kids nowadays don't really know Looney Tunes. There's no reason because it hasn't really come up as a mainstream thing anymore. They don't watch cartoons like that.
Yeah, Bugs Bunny. And
everything's so
Flood.
curated. There's a million different choices. Yeah, but like the humor too is pretty. I mean, a lot of it's like it's slapstick humor that's funny.
Yeah,
but
it's a total change now. Saturday morning. I don't know what the cartoons are.
I don't think there's really much of Saturday morning cartoons anymore.
Because it's constant cartoon. I mean, you
can just choose whatever you want.
You only watch cartoons on Saturday morning. They didn't have them during the week or on Netflix or on channels.
Yeah, I don't know about mine. I mean, I like Bobby's World a lot. I remember. What did I always watch? Doug. I like Doug. Yeah, that's right. Cartoon. It depends on the age. I remember I loved Rocko's Modern Life.
Yeah.
Rugrats.
Yeah.
Legends of the Hidden Temple. And I remember always coming home to watch that after school. But as a young kid, I'm not sure what I really was into other than like Saturday morning cartoon stuff. But
they didn't have much. You didn't grow up in the age of cable. Cable was the last 10, 15 years.
That's true.
20 years.
Game Wife says, tell us about the gigabytes.
Well,
he's an expert in computers.
I have taught Jack everything he knows about computers. Does not acknowledge that.
Double Dare, yes.
Double Dare was another good one too, but that was beyond. That was
me. That was mine. Yeah. But also, somebody asked about your hobbies. What were your hobbies growing up or as a kid?
Well, what we used to do as a kid, we didn't play games and do things like that. I did stuff around school, but we played a lot. Instead of doing video games,
Yes.
we used to go outside and play little pickup football games or baseball games with the people across the street. And when I was in high school, I was a debater, speech extemporaneous and speaker, and went to tournaments. So we did that. As a kid, there wasn't any formal hobbies. I made models and stuff like other kids, but it was what I enjoyed. But yeah, it's a different kind of activity, kid, back then to now. Now you go to friends' houses, you play video games. Then you'd go outside and you'd go around and play a pickup football.
See, and I'll give a combo on that. When my age growing up, it was the hey dad, I'm dad. All right, we're gonna give you one.
You've been dadded.
The it's like a mix. So the mix is that when you grew up, it was all like you have to go outside. Everything was outside, or if you watch a show together, it's half an hour, whatever. That's it. But when I grew up, there was video games, but it wasn't as much in that sense. We still went outside. We still hung out. The friends still, when the light comes on outside, you mean to come back in. You could ride your bikes or whatever. Yeah, you played video games. Also, video games were different. See, like when I was a kid, I know you don't know much about video games, but explain it. Is now split screen is a thing where you have like one side on you and then also your friend or whatever. I remember we had friends come over. We played games like that. So, but now there's not as many games with split screen. So you have to play online with somebody. They're just gonna be at their house. But with split screen, they'd come over. Here's a couple controllers. You have your 4 friends having that camaraderie together in a room eating pizza. That's like gone away. So we had this middle ground of like the old way of like just being outside and the new way. So it's really changed now how it's happened. And I find that very interesting of like the away from the outside element too. But a lot of that too is when you were 8 or 10, you could just be outside and nobody cared.
Yeah, we used
but
to.
Now if I have my son go outside with some friends for a couple hours and just go hang out in the neighborhood, the police would get called and for me being neglectful of my children.
When I was a kid, I was raised in a
that's true
housing development outside of Kansas City, and behind us were undeveloped farms, and later on they were developed and turned into subdivisions. But we used to go out and play the correction sites. People weren't around. Nobody would shoot us. It was just fun to play. And my parents would say, go out and play. Okay?
And you just go out on
you're going to play and come back. You came back when you felt like it. You wouldn't stay all night or anything. But things are a lot different. Now the developments that I played in are all, it's in Overland Park, Kansas, Mission, Kansas, totally developed. It's all suburbs, dozens of miles. It's not farmland or construction project. It's cities. So you don't have that opportunity of the outside world that you.
I also think it's like partially that and partially the community trust. If you were home after lights went on, you knew you were going to catch a whooping, Evo Farter says. If after the lights went. If you made it home when the lights were off already, or lights went on, like when the street lights.
It started to get dark. You knew
you had to be home, you're going to get in trouble.
That's right.
That's right. And I think part of it's like half. Like there's so much development, but a lot of it has to do with the community safety element not existing. Like everybody knew their neighbors, right? Everybody knew their neighbors well. You said hi, you hung out or whatever, right. And everybody really knew each other. But nowadays, that's really, really changed. Yeah. Even in a suburb, people don't know each other much. You have to make efforts or people keep to themselves. But when it was community like that, you hung around the community, and if you did get yourself into some trouble, some Susan Williams is going to pick up the phone down the street, call your mom, and say, hey, Michael is blah, 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 blah. And that's what the community effort took care of each other. But that's kind of gone now.
We knew and talked about as kids all the people around us. The guy across the street from us, he was a salesman for chocolate-covered insects. That's what he'd do. And so every so
is that a very lucrative business?
I don't know. I don't know. We go back and sometimes he tried to give us samples. a chocolate covered beetle, and we said, no, thanks, that's okay. Take the chocolate. But people across the street from us, there was a guy who was a reverend who was buddy with his kids, and they were nice. The guy across the street, his father, the kid taught me how to ride a bike. Now that doesn't happen. Now you talk to your neighbors, and maybe you see a block party if you have one. But you don't have that kind of community that you have, and you don't play with the kids. Everybody kid moved on the block, you'd play with them. Now, that way, it's a real, you miss that. I think you missed it when you were growing up too.
I did too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that went away in the 90s. Before that, I think it went away in that time period.
Yeah.
So everybody really, you're here for everybody wants dad of dads, you embarrassing stories of me. Everybody's asking those about an embarrassing story.
Well, I don't know if you were embarrassed by this, but Jack was kicked out of daycare. Okay. Jack, when he was a kid, had a lot of trouble with other kids. And he had a hearing issue. He couldn't hear things right. So one time in daycare, some kid was talking to him and couldn't understand him, and he got frustrated. He must have been about 5 or 6. So he decided he was going to clarify the issue, and he took his scissors and cut the guy's ear. Right. So I don't know if that embarrasses him now. He's just a young kid then, but he was kicked out of daycare. That was, and the parents, it was more embarrassing for me than him, I think.
Oh, no.
I think he was happy he got revenge on the kid. But the teachers would come out saying,
well, I remember this, and I've told this in a little bit, not with as much detail, but I remember it. I said something. I think I was telling the kid to his ears, he didn't clean behind his ears. But I don't know if he didn't clean by his ears or if he had a hearing aid. I'm hoping it was unclean ears, and I told him he needs to hit a bunch of stuff savage came behind his ears. And I don't remember doing the action of cutting his earlobe. I remember saying this thing, and then you're like, oh my God, what did I do? Running outside of this, because it was 2 stories if I recall. I ran downstairs, and I think they found me on the swing swinging. And my mindset as a 5-year-old, I was like, I'm going to swing right now. Everything's cool. What do you mean? I didn't do anything wrong. Everything's good. And I knew I screwed up. But yes, that is an embarrassing story.
That was tough. We found another daycare for you. You were fine.
Yeah.
Okay, no more ear problems.
No.
And you didn't pick up deadly weapons against 6-year-olds.
No more channeling of Mike Tyson.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good one. That's a good one. Thank you, Dad of Dads. Oh, thanks, Dad. That is a good one. So yeah, what other questions do we have? I find it interesting of as you growing up, what about I always find this story interesting. What grades did you get in college?
I was really good. I was.
But what letter is the grade?
They had ABCDs.
But I thought there was another letter you got.
No. Oh, yes. I grew up during the Vietnam War. Okay?
What is love?
At that time,
That's right.
That's a Kent State.
Don't
Okay?
hurt me no more.
Basically, a lot of colleges closed down in honor of the people who were killed.
Right.
But I went to Northwestern, and they didn't close down. What they did is they turned the classes from A, B, C, D, or whatever to you could get a pass fail. You either get a pass, which would be D, or you get a fail. So I turned all my classes in to Z's. So for that quarter, I got all Z's.
You got all Z's.
I got Z's. I got all Z's, and nobody did it. A lot of people just left campus. And, they didn't have to do anything.
You get a Z.
Yeah,
you just had to be enrolled, really.
Yeah, you got to be enrolled, and you can look at the book and maybe come in and take the final at the end of the year. But got Z's.
Didn't you have to? I can embarrass you with the story, but didn't you? Wasn't there one that a TA wanted you guys to Oh, hi, Mom Dragon says, Evil Farter is
What
gifting.
is
Thank you for the
love?
gifted subscription.
Baby, don't hurt
Thank you very much. Evil Farter, of course. And, didn't you have to, like, smoke pot or supposed to smoke out of a bong with a TA or something to pass a class?
I took a course. You could form your own courses for if you're an upperclassman. And I formed a course in sociology, and the teacher was a sociology student, and he was a disciple of Frank Zappa. I don't know if you guys, before your time. He was, he named his kid Moon Unit. He was a real freaked out
there.
guy in the,
in the 70s. Yeah,
so
for
we
sure.
would meet and basically got credit for smoking pot. And we would sit around, get
Absolutely,
stoned,
Meister, yeah.
and he would I got an A.
You sit around, get stoned,
I
and
got
get an A.
Yeah.
Smoking the reefer and get an A.
One
There you go.
One of the guys who was professor at Northwestern was Andrew Gordon, member of the Mothers of Invention, Frank Zappa's band. He was a professor of sociology.
The children are listening.
Yeah. Well, the children are here.
Yeah. No, but like downstairs, they're listening. Kate said that.
I hope not. Well, okay.
Shh. It doesn't happen that way anymore, kiddos.
Yeah, you don't get really stoned in your classes.
No.
Still pass.
Right.
That is not a good thing to do.
Yes. All right, I got one more question. I think Meister, drugs, dads, and rock and roll. One more question, if you don't mind. Your best dad joke. I think when you told me your dad joke earlier, do you have another on deck?
I know one that Zach invented when he was.
Which one is that?
I think this is. What happens when a genius?
No, that's you. That's
No,
yours.
I think this was yours.
No, this was yours. You always said attributed to yourself.
Anyway, maybe.
And no. And the movie Joe and the Volcano stole this joke from you. I know which joke you're going to say. Go right ahead.
What happens when a genius takes a shower?
What?
Get a brainstorm.
A brainstorm.
They're bad. And I hope you know that Zach is telling his son all the same kind of jokes. And he's learning to appreciate kind of pun. For better or worse, decide which one is appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a good joke.
Yeah, it is.
Sure. The yeah, I mean, do we have any more questions out there? I don't know if I have any more questions for my dad that I haven't already asked already. I'm sure I have more questions for him off interview after everything that he said today. Yeah, I don't have anything additional to say, but if you guys have more, if not, otherwise I'm gonna let him going back to be grandpa of my children. Give you back your day. But I do want to show I am appreciative. I'm glad you're doing this. I know it's your first time doing something like this. I hope it was fun. It's a lot of fun to have you here.
I enjoyed spilling my guts about
spilling
my sordid past.
Your sordid past. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. It's great. Everybody obviously loves having you here and thinks, you're great. People are very nice and thankful to me and like how I curate the community and try to be there for everybody. And I always owe a lot to you. I do want to say that I looked up to you as a father for sure, absolutely. And that I try to emulate and try to, what did you teach me and how did you raise us and how I want to raise my kids.
The only thing I would add is that being a parent or actually going through life, you have to have a sense of humor. Even bad dad jokes.
Yeah.
So if your dad tells you bad jokes, trying his best, he may not have much of a sense of humor, but he's trying.
Yeah. It's you got to take things lightly too. Yeah. So all right, everybody. I'm not going to rate on this one. It would take a little too long. So as usual, thanks for coming. Thanks for staying. Thanks for watching the show. Till next time. I don't know if tomorrow, maybe Sunday night, I'll probably be able to jump on. Everybody have a good evening. Thanks again for coming in on this special by dads. That's right. Special occasion. Appreciate you all showing up. Thank you. What a good show. I appreciate that, Wolf. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.